Did.
Good morning, everyone. It's so good to be here with you today. Today's talk title is A Moment to Rest. And what I was thinking about when I sat down to make notes for today's talk was a few weeks ago, I had bragged to more than one person that things don't really rattle me much anymore, that I just take the punches as they come. And so I thought it was pretty funny that the music video had some glitches this morning on that second song that we played. And, my first reaction to it was, oh no, we need to stop it. And then I was like, it's fine. It's just fine. And I was reading your comments as they came up, and I thought it was funny that happened, because that is the gist of what I want to talk about today, is when things seem to go wrong. So I said that I don't react usually. And so I'm here to tell you, do not tell the universe, don't say that out loud, because the universe will react and test you to see, oh, you don't react? Okay, well, here, let me throw some things to you. And I was acting like everything was just no big deal, no matter what was going on. The sage on Washington, D.C. a couple of weeks, last month, when that happened, I heard a lot of people were so upset about it, and it didn't faze me. I was like, and so that's what I'm talking about when I say that I react as if it's no big deal. But that's something that is out there in the world, not something that directly affected my own life. So after announcing this to a few of my friends, the universe responded. It all began to throw punches at me, and it started 3 weeks ago today on a Sunday afternoon. Most Sundays are a day of rest for me after church services said and done, and I get calmed back down from all the energy that I put forward, but not that Sunday. I did get calmed back down, and most Sundays I end up taking a nap at around 1 o'clock. And sometimes I sleep for an hour, sometimes 2, sometimes even longer. But this day, my husband, I take a nap in the living room on the recliner with the television going. And my husband, Ken, he's so sweet. He normally just sits there in his recliner and is very quiet and doesn't get up and move around much. He just lets me have my nap time. But that particular Sunday, as I was stirring here and there, I noticed that he had gotten up several times. And after about an hour and 15 minutes, Spirit said, you need to check on your husband. So I got up and I went and located where he was at, and he was not feeling too good. I said, are you okay? And he said, I don't think so. My stomach is really hurting, my back hurting. And he was quivering. I said, Ken, do you need me to take you to the ER? And he's not one to just run to a doctor, but he was looking pretty sick. And he said, well, let me think about it for a few minutes. I said, well, in that few minutes, would you like for me to do some Reiki on you? He said, yes. So he sat down at the kitchen table, and I was doing Reiki on him for a few minutes when he said, I'm ready for you to take me to the ER. We drove down to Northwest emergency room, and he was diagnosed with acute pancreatitis. And they were going to admit him for a few days. I left him in the emergency room. After I had been there with him for several hours, they were getting ready to take him up to his room, and I went home. But my husband, this is very normal for him. He doesn't carry his cell phone when he goes out and about most of the time anymore, since he doesn't drive anymore. And so the next day, their visiting hours didn't start till 3 o'clock, but I had no idea what was going on from the time I had left him in the emergency room. And I got really discombobulated about it because I couldn't call him. He didn't have his phone, and I tried to call the hospital room in which he was at, and it rang and rang and rang with no answer. I tried to call, my friend Bex told me to call the nurses station. I called the nurses station, and they didn't answer. And I was just getting really outside of myself. I was not handling this like it was no big deal. Ken is fine today. He has been on the mend now for 3 weeks. He did spend 3 nights at the hospital, but he's all better now. And that was the first thing that happened. And I want to tell you, I was out of my mind that Monday morning up until I was able to get in touch with Ken. I finally got a nurse on the phone at around 2 o'clock, and she took the wireless phone into Ken's room and let me talk to him. I didn't know if I was coming to pick him up, if I needed to take him anything, how he was doing. I know nothing. And I just felt so outside of myself. I also felt like Monday is my big work day and I needed to get work done. And I did sit down to work. I did get work done, but I was really not focused on it 100% because of what was going on in my life. And I realize now, looking back in retrospect, that, that was my time to take a moment to rest. That maybe what I was doing was helping me to not think about what might be going on up at the hospital. Just take a moment to rest from it. Take a moment to rest from the things going on. And that was in my own life. So yes, it did rattle me. I really wanted to handle it as if it was no big deal. And once I had spoken to Ken and seen him again the next day, it began to feel like it was no big deal. It's just another thing going on in our lives that happen. It happens to all of us. Sooner or later, something comes up that messes with the normal flow of our lives, and we get to deal with it. But what keeps coming up for me since then is that life gives you more of whatever you are thinking about. So that was only the beginning of the universe messing with my mind about, I'm just deal with things like they're no big deal. I felt a bit unnerved that Monday morning. And so the universe responded by giving me more things to see if it could unnerve me a little bit more. So the first thing that happened was my jacuzzi tub plumbing pump went out. And now that's not any big deal. I can still bathe or take a shower, but I really love taking a koozie bath, especially during the cold winter months. Oh, it's no big deal, I thought. We'll just call the home warranty people and they'll come take care of it. They came over and told us it was going to be a $900 repair. And the warranty company said that we were almost at our limit as far as plumbing went for the year. And our part was going to be $700 and something. And Ken and I talked about it and we decided that, okay, we'll go for it because I really do like it. And shortly thereafter, before they were able to schedule to come for the jacuzzi tub, our kitchen faucet sprang a leak up under the sink. Now, this faucet was new. It was just installed last summer. And so we called that plumbing place that had replaced the faucet last summer and said, can you come over and take a look at this and fix your work that's going bad? And they said, yeah, we can swing by either tomorrow or Friday. Well, we had this big flood going on under our sink. So Ken went to turn the water off, but there was still this constant drip coming out. He opened the faucet so it would come out and go down the drain. But for 2 days, that was happening. And I had taken everything out from under my sink and dried the mess up. When they finally came back on Friday, the leak happened on a Wednesday. When they finally came back on Friday, they turned the water on so they could see the leak. And guess what? It wouldn't leak for them. And the man said, well, I can't fix it if I can't see what is wrong. Okay, here's the universe stirring up stuff. My koozie tub's out. My husband's still not feeling too good. And now my kitchen sink doesn't work. Well, the first thing I did, I'm going to back up a little bit. The first thing I did with the kitchen sink, the dishes, for example, Ken and I stopped using our dishwasher about a year ago because we use so very few dishes. It's no big deal to just wash them off right quick and set them aside. And so my first reaction to me not having a kitchen sink was some years ago, like when we were first together, so 16 years ago, Ken and I were remodeling that house in Tyler that we were living in, and it didn't have a kitchen sink at the time. He was busy putting that in. And so we would take the dishes into the bathtub to wash them there. And that's the first thing that came to my mind, that I needed to wash the dishes in the bathtub, which is difficult to get to in this house because it's right next to the toilet where the water comes out, and you had to get down in this funny little mood. And all these things coming up to unnerve me. Now, I was handling it with ease and grace. And these things, I was able to say, this is just stuff happening. It's not who I am. It's not how I'm going to feel. It's just something that I need to deal with in this now moment. And I'm not going to let it disturb my peace of mind. On the second day, as I was drinking my coffee, I remembered that we had a dishwasher. Ken was sitting next to me drinking his coffee. I looked up at him. He looked up at me, and I said, "We have a dishwasher." And we both just laughed and laughed and laughed because we didn't have to get upset. We didn't have to wash the dishes in the bathtub. And so here's the universe. The kitchen faucet did start leaking again that evening. And I had told the young man, look out on my back deck where all the towels and the kitchen rug are, where I had to hang them out. And he's like, I can't do it if I can't see it. So that night when it started leaking again, my legally blind husband, who is still somewhat ill, already a little bit disabled from the wreck he had a few years ago, can't move around as good, that kind of stuff, he decides that he's going to replace the faucet. Now, this is my husband of yesteryear, the man that could do anything around the house. And so I sat back and just watched. He worked on it the next day, and he had to take many breaks, but he got it fixed. And I was not rattled. Okay. So here's the deal. I had all this stuff sitting out on my kitchen counter, all the stuff that's from under the sink. And we don't have a lot of counter space. So that's a pretty big deal, not having that counter space and just breathing into it. We needed to wait to make sure that none of the leaks were going to happen again. We were getting a small leak out of the valve where you turn the water off. And Ken told me, he said, well, I used to work for the water department, and I learned that if you can get a leak down to just one drop a minute, that eventually it will seal itself off. And I said, I remember you telling me that before. So for the next several days, we've been still having the stuff on the kitchen counter. And, I normally like stuff tidy. I'm not the perfect housekeeper by any means, but I like things to be tidy. And that didn't feel tidy to me. The jacuzzi tub people came back, and they had finally found a pump, and they realized that it wasn't going to cost near the amount of money that they had told us. And we ended up paying only $200 for the repair out of our own pockets. So that was a savings of over $500 for us. And I attributed that to, it just was what it was. It was a broken jacuzzi tub bathtub. It just was what it was. I'm not going to fret about it. I'm not going to be in lack consciousness because it was going to cost me so much money. I was just going to go with it and let it flow. And then the universe responded again and said, okay, you are handling it this like it's no big deal. That is our spiritual nature. When we can handle stuff in that way, when we can go through life without putting a huge amount of emotional energy into things that are going on for us, then the universe responds in kind and helps us to have that easy, more carefree way. The thing that kept coming to mind through all of the ordeal was that that's just life. That's the way life responds to us. That And when we respond like it's no big deal, that's what we get more of. And that's where we need to take that moment to rest. I want to tell you that those items from under my sink are still on my kitchen counter today. And for the first time this morning, when Ken put his hand up under there, there wasn't a water spot. Yay! So it did seal itself off. And again, life responds, spirit responds when we treat life like it's no big deal. But I want to tell you a little bit. Okay, I've already said that. Catch up to where I'm at in my notes. What it reminded me of through all this experience is that life isn't about doing. It's about taking time to be. It's about taking time to be with spirit and recognizing that what's going on in our lives doesn't define who we are. It doesn't define what our emotional beings are. It doesn't define our spiritual life. We get to decide that no matter what is going on. But if you're the type of person to be a doing kind of person, because I know you're out there, I'm that way at times too, it's important to just take a moment to rest, interspersed in that doing. You know, book club is watching a DVD the last week or so that we're going to discuss this Wednesday. It's Where Do We Invade Next by Michael Moore. And he goes around to these different countries to see how they're doing things differently. Book club's going to discuss it this coming Wednesday. But the thing that I want to tell you about is the first segment of it, where I think he was in Norway, and they were explaining to Michael that they get a lot of vacation time, right? It was like 9 weeks a year. And they were surprised when Michael told them that, you know, most Americans don't get that. And they were just shocked. He even went to a couple of companies and interviewed the employers. And one company owner or CEO said, we love giving our employees time off because they're more productive when they are at work. And that just makes so much sense to me, that when we take time to just let things be, to let our shoulders drop and just be, when we do go back to doing, they go a lot smoother and a lot better for us. So life isn't really about what's happening to us. It's about the meaning that we give to what's happening. It's about remembering to take that moment, to take that hour, to take that day, to take that week, to have downtime, to know who we truly are within us by spending time with spirit, by recognizing that. So this past Wednesday, I had been wanting to get out and go on a hike, and I thought Ken was going to, but he didn't want to. I don't remember if that was the day he was doing the plumbing or, it was the day after he did the plumbing. So he was kind of feeling sore from getting up and down and all that. He didn't really want to go, but I just needed to get out. And so I decided I would just take a walk through the neighborhood and just be in the now moment. I want to tell you how refreshing that was, how different the experience was for me without another person there. I rarely do this alone, mind you. But I realized that I was really caught up in the beauty that was around me, which is common when I'm with other people too. But I got so much into the feel of the cool breeze on my skin, the neighbors working on their houses or out in their yard, or just watching it and observing it as I went by. I got so caught up in that I actually got turned around on the road that I was at. I had these little loops that went out, and I did one and I went the wrong way coming off of it without even realizing it. I went some distance before I even realized that I wasn't walking in the direction that thought I had intended to go, but God always knows where we're supposed to be and when we're supposed to be there. Spirit was leading me to be exactly where I needed to be. I met one of the neighbors down the road once I got turned around that had just parked and got out. I would have totally missed that had I made the right turn instead of the left turn. I would have already been gone. And it was just a nice, very short interaction, that Spirit telling me, this is how life responds when we deal with it like it's no big deal. Now, I'm not saying that there are things that aren't a big deal. Okay, Ken was okay, but there are things that happen that are a big deal. And it's okay to put energy into it, but I invite you that when those things happen, to breathe in and know that when we react from a state of peace, from that state of God, from that state of spirit, that's how spirit and the universe reacts back to us, helping us to go through life more smoothly, more easily. It reminds me of one of my favorite unity sayings, which is, let go and let God. So now I'm going to get